There is a white powder sitting in industrial warehouses right now, sold in bulk for less than $1 a pound, that can do something.
No dish soap, no degreaser spray, no commercial kitchen cleaner on the market can actually do. It doesn't just cut through grease. It doesn't just lift it or suspend it or mask it with fragrance. It converts the grease into soap, right there, on the surface, in real time, permanently. And almost nobody is talking about it. You've spent years scrubbing. You've bought the green bottles, the orange bottles, the ones with the aggressive names, and the bold fonts that promise industrial strength. You've sprayed, waited, wiped, and then watched the grease come back 2 days later like it never left. Because here's the thing they never told you, Cuss. Most of those products don't eliminate grease. They hide it. They push it into suspension, they dilute it, they coat it just enough so it looks clean under a kitchen light. But the chemistry of the fat itself? Untouched, still there, still ready to reaccumulate for the moment something warm and oily touches that surface again. What I'm about to show you has been sitting in plain sight for over 2 centuries. It was used by Roman soap makers, by medieval glass blowers, by 19th century laundresses, by First World War industrial. It has a technical name that most people have never heard, and a common name that you might recognize but have never thought to apply in your kitchen, your garage, or your workshop. Its cost today is somewhere between 50 cents and $1 per pound when purchased in bulk. A single pound is enough to last the average household more than 6 months of regular use. The name is anhydrous sodium carbonate, also known as soda ash, also known as washing soda's older, more concentrated sibling. And what it does to grease is not cleaning in the ordinary sense. It is chemistry.
It is transformation. It is, in the most literal and technical meaning of the word, saponification, the same process that turns animal fat into soap. Happening right on your stovetop, your oven door, your garage floor, your industrial equipment, without any scrubbing, without any heat, and without a product that costs $30 and runs out in 2 weeks. Think about the last time you tried to clean a greasy pan. Not a lightly oiled pan, a truly greasy one, the kind that comes from roasting something fatty for an hour, or from a deep fry session that leaves a film
on every surface within 3 feet of the stove. You spray, you wait, you scrub, you use more soap, you scrub again. The water runs gray. You think it's clean, but run your finger across it under cold water. You can still feel it, that faint slickness, that ghost of fat that no amount of dish soap actually eliminated, because dish soap was never designed to eliminate fat. It was designed to emulsify it. There is a profound, expensive difference between those two things. Emulsification means the fat molecules are surrounded by surfactant molecules and carried away in water. It works, partially. But the fat is still fat. Its molecular structure is unchanged. It hasn't become anything else. It is simply dispersed. And dispersed fat has a memory. It settles, it recoats, it accumulates on drains, on surfaces, on the insides of pipes. Every professional plumber knows this. Every restaurant kitchen manager knows this. The grease trap at the back of every commercial kitchen in the world is proof that emulsification, repeated daily with gallons of commercial detergent, does not solve the grease problem. It postpones it. Saponification solves it. Here's what happens at the molecular level when anhydrous sodium carbonate meets a fatty acid. And I want you to understand this because it changes how you see every cleaning product you've ever bought. Fats and oils pat, whether they come from cooking, from mechanical equipment, from skin sebum on a surface pie, are primarily composed of triglycerides.
When sodium carbonate, which is a strongly alkaline salt with a pH of approximately 11.4 in solution, comes into contact with those fatty acids, it triggers a hydrolysis reaction. The alkaline hydroxide ions attack the ester bonds of the triglyceride. The fatty acid chains are cleaved from the glycerol. The sodium ions bond with the freed fatty acids. The result is sodium carboxylate, COP, which is by definition soap,
and rinses away cleanly. You read that correctly. The grease becomes soap, not coated, not hidden.
That rinses away completely, leaving a surface that has no residual fat because there is no residual fat. The molecular structure that made it slick, that made it hydrophobic, that made it capable of reaccumulating in chent is gone. This is not a modern discovery. This is not a laboratory breakthrough from last year. This is foundational chemistry that has been documented since at least the early 1800s, when the French chemist Michel-Eugène Chevreul published his landmark work
on fatty acids and their saponification reactions, a body of research so influential it formed the scientific basis for the entire modern soap and detergent industry. Chevreul understood exactly what alkalis did to fat. He documented the mechanism, he published the results, and then, over the following century and a half, the industry that grew from his discoveries found a much more profitable path forward than teaching people to use cheap alkalis on their own.
Before Chevreul, the knowledge was already empirical.
The ancient Romans used a crude form of potassium carbonate extracted from wood ash to clean wool.
To degrease animal hides, to prepare surfaces in their bathhouses. Medieval soap makers in Marseille combined animal fat through exactly this same saponification reaction. The process was known, the chemistry was practiced, it was taught from craftsman to apprentice for centuries. In every culture that processed fat for food, for light, for fiber, for medicine, by the Industrial Revolution, sodium carbonate had become a foundational chemical.
The Leblanc process, developed in France in the 1790s, created the first large-scale industrial production of soda ash.
Textile mills in England used it by the ton to strip oils from raw wool. Glassmakers used it to clean kilns. Early automobile factories used it
To degrease metal parts before painting. In the 1910s and 1920s, railway maintenance crews used sodium carbonate solutions, not because it was fashionable, because it worked completely, reliably, and at a cost that made industrial-scale cleaning economically viable. Then something shifted.
After the Second World War, the petrochemical industry produced a revolution in synthetic surfactants. Compounds derived from petroleum and dozens of others, could be manufactured cheaply, packaged attractively, and marketed aggressively. These compounds were excellent at emulsifying fats in cold water. They created satisfying foam, which consumers associated with cleaning power, even though foam has no chemical role in degreasing. They could be colored, scented,
And bottled in distinctive containers that built brand identity and commanded premium prices. A bottle of dish soap that costs $4 and contains maybe 22 cents
worth of active chemistry is an extraordinary business model. A bag of soda ash that costs $1 and lasts a family 6 months is not.
The marketing infrastructure that grew around household cleaners in the post-war decades was staggering. By 1970, $70 B on cleaning products. By 2024, that figure had grown to over $600 per household per year. The global household cleaning products market
is currently valued at over $30 billion annually and is projected to reach $40 billion by 2028. These are products that, in most cases, do not permanently solve the problems they claim to address. They manage them. They require repeat purchase. They are, by design, a recurring expense. And in the shadow of that enormous market, a $1 powder that actually converts grease into soap never got its own commercial. Now, I want to be honest with you about something, because this narrative deserves honesty. Anhydrous sodium carbonate is not a magic solution for every surface and every situation.
Because of its alkalinity, that pH of 11.4, it should not be used on aluminum surfaces without dilution.
It requires careful handling when used in concentrated dry form because prolonged skin contact with the dry powder can cause mild irritation
for extended use. It should not be mixed with acidic cleaners because the neutralization reaction produces CO2 and heat. It is not a disinfectant.
It kills some bacteria through its pH, but it should not be mistaken for a sanitizing agent on food contact surfaces without a follow-up rinse. These are real limitations. Understanding them is part of using this compound intelligently. But on greasy surfaces, on stubborn oil buildup, on the that accumulate on oven walls, on the underside of range hoods, on the interior of air fryer baskets, on garage floors stained by motor oil,
On concrete driveways with decades of grease buildup, soda ash performs at a level that most commercial products cannot match, at a fraction of the cost.
with results that are chemically permanent rather than cosmetically temporary. Here is what the practical application looks like. Take anhydrous sodium carbonate, soda ash, not baking soda, which is a different and much weaker compound, and dissolve approximately 2 tablespoons in 1 cup of warm water. You now have a strongly alkaline solution that will begin saponifying any exposed fat the moment it makes contact. For light to moderate grease on stovetop surfaces, range grates, or oven interiors, apply this solution with a sponge or spray bottle, let it sit undisturbed for 5 to 10 minutes, and wipe clean. You will find that the residue comes away not as a greasy film, but as a slightly soapy, almost sudsy residue, because that is exactly what it has become. For heavier buildup, the kind that has been baking onto a surface for months poo, you can increase concentration, apply dry powder directly onto a dampened surface, and allow longer contact time of 15 to 20 minutes. The chemistry works proportionally to contact time and concentration. For garage floors or concrete stained with motor oil,
or transmission fluid, the application is even more dramatic. Wet the surface, apply dry soda ash liberally across the stain, scrub briefly to work it into the surface pores,
and allow it to sit for 20 to 30 minutes. Rinse with water. The oil that was locked into the concrete matrix undergoes the same saponification reaction,
And the resulting soap is water-soluble. Stains that have resisted commercial degreasers for years respond to a single sustained treatment with sodium carbonate.
This is documented in industrial maintenance literature. It is taught in professional custodial training programs in Europe and Asia far more prominently than it is in North America.
where the household cleaning products industry has a particularly dominant market presence. In textile restoration, soda ash has been the standard pretreatment for grease stains
On fabric in professional laundry operations for decades. Dry cleaning technicians know it. Industrial linen services use it. The garment industry uses it at scale.
But ask the average person what to do about a grease stain on a shirt, and they will reach for a commercial stain remover that costs $12 for a small bottle and, in most cases, contains sodium carbonate as one of its active ingredients par. Diluted, fragranced, packaged,
and marked up by a factor of 20 or 30. What you are looking at when you stand in the cleaning aisle of a supermarket
is not primarily a display of different chemical solutions. It is a display of different marketing investments. The actual chemistry of cleaning, of saponification, surfactant action, alkaline degreasing, oxidative bleaching cow, was largely worked out by the early 20th century. The products that fill those shelves are variations on a short list of fundamental compounds,
Packaged in ways that create perceived differentiation, perceived necessity, and most importantly, perceived disposability. The product is designed to run out. The solution should not. There is a broader pattern here that goes well beyond soda ash. Think about how many times in your life a simple, cheap, old-fashioned approach to a problem was sitting right next to an expensive modern version of essentially the same thing. White vinegar and descaling tablets, beeswax and commercial wood conditioner, lye soap and antibacterial body wash, borax and commercial laundry boosters. In field after field, in product category after product category,
Discovered functional solutions that were later absorbed, repackaged, diluted, fragmented, and resold at a premium by markets that needed the volume and the recurring revenue.
the knowledge didn't disappear. It just stopped being the thing that got promoted. You have to wonder, at some point, how much of your recurring household expense is the cost of solving problems, and how much of it is the cost of repeatedly managing them? Grease on your stovetop right now.
How many times have you cleaned that same surface this year? How many bottles of degreaser have you gone through in the last 5 years? How much of that was cleaning, and how much of it was temporarily postponing the next cleaning? The answer, if you are using conventional surfactant-based products,
Is that almost all of it was postponement. The fat was never converted. It was shuffled. And it came back, because of course it came back.
because the molecules that make grease greasy were still there, still intact, waiting for the next opportunity to coat a surface and feel like home. That cycle ends the moment saponification begins. Not because soda ash is exotic or secret or miraculous. It is none of those things.
It is simply doing chemistry instead of theater. It is changing the thing instead of rearranging it. And it costs $1 a pound in bulk quantities.
That can be found at pool supply stores, pottery suppliers, soap-making retailers, and a growing number of online vendors who sell it as a water softener and laundry additive. 1 pound is enough for somewhere between 40 and 60 individual cleaning applications, depending on concentration and surface area. The math against a market of $30 commercial degreasers is almost offensive in its simplicity. What strikes me most about this show, and I have spent a considerable amount of time
Inside this subject pies, is not that the knowledge was hidden. It wasn't hidden. It was always in chemistry textbooks, in industrial maintenance manuals,
In the technical specifications of commercial laundry operations, in the training materials of professional cleaning services, it was always findable by anyone with the curiosity to look.
What strikes me is how thoroughly it was made invisible through the sheer weight of marketing saturation. When every surface in a supermarket, every commercial break,
every sponsored search result, every influencer partnership is pointing you toward a product with a name and a bottle and a smell and a story.
the thing without all of that disappears into the background. Not because it doesn't work, because it doesn't have a lobby. You are not powerless in this.
You never were. The knowledge that soap makers used in ancient Rome, that medieval laundresses carried in their hands, that 19th century chemists published in academic journals, that industrial maintenance workers applied to locomotive engines pan, that knowledge belongs to you as much as it belongs to anyone. It is older than brand names.
It is older than packaging. It is older than the entire concept of a cleaning products aisle. It is chemistry. It is cause and effect.
It is a pH interaction between an alkali and a fatty acid that produces something clean and water-soluble where something greasy and persistent used to be.
$1, 1 pound, 1 reaction. And the grease doesn't come back Hive because the grease isn't grease anymore. That is what they never put on a label.
That is what no 30-second commercial ever explained to you. And now you know it. Keep it. Use it. The cycle of buying products that solve the symptom while leaving the cause intact to us, that cycle was never mandatory. It was just heavily encouraged. And encouragement, once you see it for what it is, loses most of its power.